specifically the last novella in the series, because that is not young adult, let me tell you. Hi everybody, welcome back. So in this video, I'll be giving you book recommendations based on books that I think are easy or less difficult to read in English if English isn't your first language, or if you're just getting into reading and you want to read something simple, not too wild, not too crazy, not too difficult in writing style, because I understand that writing style is a huge aspect in stories and books, and it can really affect your reading experience. So I feel like these books have a simple enough writing style that non-first language English speakers can understand if you're not very good at English or something like that, or if you want to start getting into reading English books. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I myself had to start somewhere too, because I am not American, I am not English or anything like that. I'm just a Dutch girl living her bookish dream English books life. Yeah. Yeah, period on that. So yeah, my first language isn't English. My first language is obviously Dutch. I have spoken this language since my birth, and I actually only started like excessively reading English books back at the beginning of 2021, when I started reading Harry Potter for fun in English, because I was Harry Potter addicted. So it was back then that I actually started reading English. So it hasn't been too long since I started reading English, and I'm very proud of my progress. But yeah, I wanted to share some recommendations the books that I read at the beginning of my journey towards reading English books and more difficult English books, and I hope you're gonna enjoy. That was a long speech. Okay, let's get on with the first book, because not the second. First book. Okay. So the first book, or books, it's by the same author, and I feel like this author in general is very easy to read, because the language is just very easy in my opinion. Like how she writes it, the writing style is not too difficult. It kind of feels like Wattpad, but then better, in my opinion. Like, Wattpad doesn't have to be bad, it just can be. So what I'm talking about here is Colleen Hoover. I just worded that very badly, and I didn't mean to. So Colleen Hoover has a very easygoing writing style in my opinion, and I think if you're a non-English speaker, or if you are not very good at speaking English, these would be very, very good books. Because I have an example. So my mom, for instance, she speaks English a little bit, but she isn't very advanced in reading or speaking English or anything like that. Had never read an English book before, and I recommend it. Verity by Colleen Hoover to her. And guess what happened? She read it and she understood it. Like, some sentences you didn't understand, but she could understand the full story. And I think that is a good message, that you're able to, read an English book even if English isn't your first language and you aren't very, very advanced in reading English. And even if you are advanced in reading English, I still think that Colleen Hoover books could be a fun, little break from all the classics and Count of Monte Cristo classic literature reading you've been doing. Should mention, Colleen Hoover is not for all, because there are some toxic traits into these books. Not this one in particular, but maybe this one. Like some choices that the characters make that I do not fully accept or understand. But overall, these are good books. Not light, because they do deal with some heavier topics. Especially this one, in my opinion. And yeah, that is what I wanted to mention. So check trigger warnings before reading. I know a lot of people are probably going to hate me for this, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Taylor Jenkins Reid also has a very easygoing writing style that is kind of similar to Colleen Hoover, but maybe a little bit more advanced, like a little bit more advanced. That is it. So yeah, I would also recommend Taylor Jenkins Reid to you, because it is also an easygoing writing style. Like, I was surprised that it was this easy, because I put off reading Taylor Jenkins Reid's book because I thought writing style would be difficult, I wouldn't understand it, but I was perfectly capable of understanding it. It was just very easy to go through, and I understand that it's not easy for everyone, but if you are a little further into the English reading, this would be the perfect read. Because I think you do need to have a base. If you want to read English, you do need to have a base. And I did have that base when I started reading English. Because I watched movies in English. I put the subtitles on English. I do think you need a base. But that is all. So if English is your first language, it's your second language or something like, or third language, The One True Loves. This is the only Taylor Jenkins Reid book I've read, so that is why I'm saying correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's pretty similar to Colleen Hoover's writing style. This book was, in my opinion, I do not think this is her best book, by the way. I think you should start with other books by her, but this was an intriguing story that the execution of it wasn't perfect, I think. Also, I should have mentioned this before. If you're new into reading English books, or if you want to expand your reading area and read English books instead of, your first language books, I would recommend reading some middle grade, because middle grade doesn't have to be bad, it doesn't have to be for children. It doesn't have to be for children. Yeah, that is what I want to say. It doesn't have to be for children. It can also be for just adults, and, middle grade is, I think, for the ages 9 to 14, and I normally do not read middle grade, but when I do often enjoy it. So, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This is the third book in the series, if you didn't know that already. I think the rest of the series is in middle grade, though. So first and second book are middle grade. I think it's kind of starts going upwards from this book. But, we're just talking about, I do not have the first and second book, so we're talking about the first and second book while also showing the third book. So, it's Harry Potter's journey on becoming a wizard and stuff, and finding out he's a wizard. It's just a very interesting concept, I think, and it's very popular. It's interesting concept. Like, it's all over the place. Like, everybody knows what it is. It's it's the classic, But I really enjoyed these, and these are fairly easy to read in my opinion. So, Another middle grade series is Percy Jackson, and I do know that this full series is middle grade, so I'm only showing Percy Jackson here, but the whole series is middle grade. So I personally did not enjoy these books, but I could totally see why other people would, because the stories are enticing, they intrigue you, they drag you and suck you in, but that just didn't happen with me because the writing style wasn't too easy. The writing style wasn't also too difficult. Also. But it didn't drag me in, and that was because of the writing. And it has nothing to do because of the difficulty level of the writing. It just has to do with the way that it was written wasn't one that interested me. Overall, if you are looking for a middle grade book that has fantasy in it, this one. I have another middle grade book. What a surprise. This is actually a series, and wow. I really enjoyed this. Like, not the first book that I'm going to show you. It's The False Prince. I feel like you should get through this one to get to the second book, because the second book is really, really good. This book, a lot of people like it, but I personally really didn't. Like, I gave 3.25 star, and that isn't very high for me, because my average rating is like 3.5 stars. So to give a book below average, not very good. But nonetheless, I think you should read this book because it is very interesting, and I see why other people would like this book in particular. But if you did not really like the story of this book or the writing style, go to the other book. Just read this, finish this, but try and read the second book in the series and see if you like that, because that is what happened with me, because I gave the second book in the series, which I finished today, 4 stars. 4 stars, not 9 stars. 4 stars. And I really enjoyed that. So I'm very glad that I continued the series, because it is a very good series, and I will definitely finish it. I think it is a 5 or 6 book series, and it is finished now, if I'm correct. And it isn't, like, in the Netherlands, it isn't too expensive. It is actually, for me, it's very cheap, because the most expensive book in the series is, I think, €9.95. So that is for me not expensive. For me, expensive is an €18 book. Cheap for me is a €6 book. But it's somewhere in between those. So I'm, happy. I'm like rambling, but I like rambling, so I don't care. Also, The Shadows Between Us. I do not know how many times I've talked about this book now, but it sure is a lot. So, this is Wetjes van Levensseller, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story. It is about a girl, she's named Alessandra. She is sick and tired of being the second daughter, second choice, so she takes matters into her own hands. What she's going to do? She is going to seduce the king, or woo the king, whatever you would like to call it, After she did that, she is going to marry the king, make the king fall in love with her. Once he's in love with her, she will kill him and take his kingdom for herself. So this is just a lot of building the relationship between Alessandra and the king. And except that, nothing really happens. Pretty much in all the scenes they're together, and that is the thing I enjoy. Like they're together in pretty much every scene, in most of the scenes. So it makes a very, very interesting story. This is also my favorite book of all time, and it's very easy to read. Like this was one that I read in the first year that I started reading English books, which was 2021, and it was easy to read for me. So that is always nice. I'm trying to, pick out, like choose some books that I have read back in the day when I started reading English. So a series that I read was this series. You cannot read the titles, but it's A Curse so Dark and Lonely. I think it's the Curse Breaker trilogy. So A Curse so Dark and Lonely, A Heart so Fierce and Broken, and A Vow so Bold and Deadly. I haven't finished A Vow so Bold and Deadly yet. Have started it a while back actually, and I still need to finish it. So Curse so Dark and Lonely is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's very intriguing because Prince Ren, he's cursed. He's forced to repeat the autumn of his 18th year over and over. He can only be freed if a girl truly falls for him. And, after years and years of this not working, his kingdom and he are barely holding on. Now, there's Harper. She lives in Washington. And then she gets kidnapped by the guard of Ren, like Ren's guard. And it's very funny, it's very intriguing. I really like this, and the writing style isn't too difficult to read in my opinion, so I would really recommend these. I think this was the last one, and it's Chatsami by Terry Matthew. This has a very unique writing style, and I think it isn't too difficult because of that unique writing style. There are some words that have like meaning behind it that I did not understand the first time I read it. Like I read it multiple times, but the first time I read it, I did not understand the meaning of a lot of words, but I could still understand the story. And I think that is very important. That if you do not understand a sentence, doesn't mean you won't understand the next sentence, and doesn't mean you won't understand the full story at the end of the day. So I think that is something that you should hold on to. Like remind yourself that just because you do not know what one sentence means doesn't mean that you won't understand what the other sentence means, but doesn't mean you won't understand what the story means. That is what I wanted to say. Now, Shatter Me. Very unique writing style, in my opinion. I think in a lot of opinions. So it's very subjective, also who will like this, but I personally loved it. This is also one of my favorite books of all time. And I would just really recommend this, like, to anyone, really. Anyways, those were the books that I wanted to talk to you about. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoyed specifically. So those are the books that I wanted to talk to you about. I hope I'm gonna see you later. So for now, I'll say goodbye and see you later. Bye-bye.